all, welcome to the show, mate. Thanks for jumping on and chatting with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So obviously we're going to be talking about your upcoming fight in the 29th of May. 29th of May. But before we get to that, I kind of want to take you a wee bit back to the start, mate. I know when you were younger you played football, but I really want to know what first got you into a Thai gym. What got you in there?
So it was a bit of a fluke, to be honest. I was at one of my friends, and we were just literally messing around in the garage as you do when you're a kid, and his mum came in and basically said, all right, his name was Callum. He said, all right, we're going to kickboxing today. It wasn't kickboxing, it was Muay Thai, but little did we know at the time. And I remember sitting there thinking, I got to go home. And I thought, wish I could go, you know. You want to stay with your friends, you know how it is. Mm-hmm. And then 2 minutes later, the mum turned around and says, George, you want to go? That was it. Legged at home, said to my mum, Mum, I'm going to Muay Thai. She's like, yeah, no worries, can you go, see you later. Get out my hair.
Did the mum have any idea what Muay Thai was?
No, she had no idea. She literally, you know what it's like when your kid wants to do something new. You say, yeah, on you go and see how long it lasts. Funnily enough, I'm still going.
Well, it certainly lasted. You know, obviously, me and James are sitting in not so sunny Scotland. You've moved countries to somewhere that some would argue has got a bit better weather.
Well, a little bit, but I don't want to make you feel bad.
Oh, mate, I don't think there's anything that could make us feel any worse the way things are now. But anyway, so I know obviously you moved out to Australia as well, and talk us a wee bit about through that process. I know was it a gym owner out in Australia who contacted you?
Yeah, so pretty much what happened. Obviously, I was coming up the ranks relatively quickly as a kid. I was only maybe 14 and I was fighting at a relatively good level. And what happened was a few of the guys over here were obviously following me. I was on Facebook with them and stuff, and they reached out to me one day and said, hey, George, you know, what would you think about coming here? And obviously I was like, wow, you know, yeah, I'll come, no worries. And then what happened was I was a little bit too young at the time. I had to wait until I was 18 to get a visa. So then I literally turned 18, passed my driving test about 2 weeks later, and then flew here pretty much immediately. So the chap, his name is Gavin Fuller and Corey Lewis. They were the co-owners of Gav's Gym, which is a gym over here. Mm-hmm. And what happened, I was here for about maybe a year and a half. And they decided to basically close the business and start afresh a couple of years later or a year later, whatever. But during that time, I obviously went to Riddler's Gym. But it's nice to see that Gav and Corey are doing well now, you know.
Yeah. How long was that gap between them initially approaching you and you eventually actually coming out? How long was that process before you were old enough to go?
Oh, I would guess it was about a year. I think it was about a year. Yeah, like I say, it's one of those things where I remember speaking to my mum, and my mum was saying to me, she says, like, I know you want to go, but is this guy for real? Like, is he really gonna? I hope he's not kind of getting your hopes up and it's gonna let you down at last minute, which I'm sure you know can happen from time to time. So I was contacting him kind of every week, saying, "Hey, just making sure we're still good. You're still gonna get me over." He says, "Yeah. I'm a man of my word, and honestly, he is, you know." And that chap Gav that I'm talking about, he's the Muay Thai Grand Prix promoter now. So he's gone to bigger and better things, and he's smashing it on the promotion front.
Yeah, what's the scene like out in Australia versus the UK? What was the differences like when you travelled out there and you got to see Muay Thai at a different part of the world?
Yeah, it was very, very different. The kids/junior scene in the UK is obviously massive. So to come here and see that a lot smaller was a bit of a shock. They don't really have the upcoming scene here that they do in the UK, but since I've been here I've been here 5 years now, so since I've been here, that's now starting to change. A lot of the coaches are now getting the kids kind of up and running. They're very strict here in terms of requirements, in terms of being able to fight. And what I mean by that is just in order to even be considered for a fight, you have to do a full medical, you have to do regular checks with the doctor, you have to get blood tests, you have to jump through all these loops just to get a fight as an adult. And one of those clauses is you're not allowed to fight here, I think, until you're 12. So that obviously was a bit of a shock, It's kids who are 7, 8 years old are ready to fight, but they got to wait until they're 12, So that was one shock. But yeah, listen, the overall scene is very similar. Originally, I didn't think the standard in Australia was as good as the UK before I came. But now that I've came here, we've got a lot of big and good fighters here. Obviously, a few of them are on one championship as well, which is great. But that was one thing that surprised me, was the standard was higher than what I expected.
Yeah, and James, I know you've got some questions for George as well, so I'd love to bring you in at this point.
I was kind of touching on what you were speaking about with the scene there. I obviously know George from when he was a kid in Glasgow training and stuff. What's the biggest difference you found with the gyms between the Scottish gyms you trained at and then the Australian gyms? Do you find any kind of difference in style of coaching or stuff like that?
So as you know, not just in terms of gym, but individual coaches. For example, when we go back to when you and I were in the gym together, man, we had 5, 6, 7, 8 different coaches, and each coach had a different speciality and a different style. It's the same here. The one thing I would say is that because we're a lot closer to Thailand, and obviously in the sport of Muay Thai, having that close connection, there's so many Thais over here. So having that extra knowledge from them is great. Where I am at Riddler's Gym, we don't have many Thais or any Thais at the gym. But when you go to the fight shows, every coach is almost Thai, every second coach. So the knowledge that they bring is huge. But not only that, you can go back and you've got obviously the MMA guys and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and obviously the Muay Thai as well. So yeah, very, very different. The comparison between Australia and the UK, much the same. I couldn't pick and choose. Style's a bit different. Here they're a bit more kind of scrapping, whereas I found that obviously the gym that we were at, obviously I was under Tommy at the time, and we were very relaxed in Muay Thai, and it was a little bit of took me time to adapt, got here.
Perfect. And got to ask as well, George, I can't see because you're a wee bit dark there. I'm trying to see how has the tan come on? You've been out there a while now. Surely you've picked up a tan now.
Well, this is the best tan I've got, and as you can see, I'm still as white as what I was when I came. So not very good. I try. Like I say, today was literally 40 degrees. I'll go out in the sun, I'll burn like a crisp. But yeah, not very good. Not very good.
How have you adapted as well? Because obviously, I mean, it's not just you've got basically going halfway more so across the world. How have you adapted to the culture in Australia? Because it's culturally going to be different in Scotland. Well, I would assume so anyway.
Yeah, the one thing that I liked about it is that you've got both summer and winter. I found when I was in Thailand a lot of the time, because it was hot all the time, it was good, but man, it's tiring, you don't appreciate it. We're here because we've got great summers, really, really nice, but then in a few months later it's freezing. That's the one thing that I really like. The lifestyle here, it's not what I imagined. It's better than I imagined. Like you'll be in the office. I've obviously got a job as well, and we'll be in the office, and I'll be at 12 o'clock on a Friday, and I remember sitting there in the office, and they said, "Oh, George, you want a beer?" And it's like, we're supposed to work until like 6 o'clock. What do you mean, do I want a beer? Like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And then they're all cracking on, bottles of wine, bottles of champagne, beers. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? I'm not used to this. And yeah, rightfully so. Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Oh yeah, this guy's done well today, so let's all get the beers out. And it's like, it's a bit of a change. But there's a lot of positives, not many negatives. Obviously, being away from my family and that's not ideal.
Yeah,
I came over on my lonesome. But the way that my family is, we're pretty much scattered all over the place anyway, so I'm used to it now.
And the other thing I've got to ask about Australia, it's obviously in Scotland we've got the midges and stuff like that to deal with. Out in Australia, it's a wee bit different. Spiders, snakes, sharks, crocodiles. Have you had any encounters to this point with anything worrisome?
Well, we went up north 2 weeks ago after my last fight, and we went somewhere called Coral Bay. And man, we were sitting in the water. I'm sure you know what it's like. Obviously, you go into the beach, you start going in, and it gets a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper as you go, right? And man, we must have been up to my knee, right? The water was up to my knee, and I could hear people shouting, "Shark, shark, shark!" And I'm thinking, oh yeah, no worries, shark over there. So there is. And I looked over. I remember looking in the water, and if you can see me, the thing was about 2 meters long, and I'm just thinking, holy crap, there's actually a shark there. Like, this guy's not joking. And then obviously, like, we went on a couple of tours and that, and we were literally swimming with like wild sharks. Yeah, not something I'd like to do again, to be honest. But I came out alive. Still, yeah.
And also, you touched on Thailand there. I'd like to hear a bit about your time in Thailand and how that experience was for you personally and for your development as a fighter.
Yep. So I was quite fortunate. My sister, she is now married to a Thai. Mm-hmm. She moved over there at a young age. Her and I basically went on holiday. She never came back. Yeah. So yeah, basically I was brought up by the same coach from a very young age. I think I was maybe about 12 or 13 at the time. He actually came over the time, his name's Bout. He actually came over, fought in Scotland on Brian Calder's promotion. And then they got a photo together, and here we are, 10, 12 years later. And yeah, ever since, he's pretty much brought me up as a fighter. Not just a fighter, but a person too. Mm-hmm. So that experience, it helped me massively. You know, I was able to not just learn the Thai way, but also I basically grew up with no cutting corners. You know, like we tried a few times to cheat on the run, and man, we always got caught out. You know, and when we get back to the gym, you know what it's like. You pay for it. So I learned the real Thai style way. It wasn't necessarily a holiday camp. My brother-in-law, now he would come in, take my phone off me, right, get to bed. What do you mean get to bed? I'm not tired yet. Tough, get to bed. I'm waking you up in the morning again, you know. So yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. At the time, I didn't necessarily enjoy it or appreciate it, but I do now.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where looking back, it's benefited you going forward, yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, and as I say, not just him, but all the coaches over my career, you know, I wouldn't be where I am now. Like, as I say, even including James, there's been many times where I've been taking part of his classes with superstars all around me, you know, people that have probably had 100 fights, you know, and not just Muay Thai, but MMA. And being around these people growing up from a young age definitely helped, you know. A lot of the things that these people showed me back then, I do today and still teach other people. Whether it's just a simple, I remember James, just because he's sitting here, he was showing us a lot of footwork drills, and obviously it was more suited probably to MMA, but it's something that I literally use almost every day in the gym, you know. So it's every step along the way, every bit of knowledge has helped to get me where I am, you know.
Yeah, and James, I guess I'll come to you then. Can you remember the first time you seen George in the gym or met George? Can you think back to then?
I can remember tall kid, really unassuming. But do you know that way when you're in the gym? Most gyms have got a big turnover. Like I've been doing this a long time, so people come and go, but every now and again somebody will come along and you just know, like, this is somebody you're going to see for the rest of your life type thing. This is somebody who's at it. But I can remember, I think George was maybe 14 or something at the time, and he was I went in the ring in Glasgow at the Grip House, and I can't remember if we were sparring or clinching Thursday morning, but I'm like, he's 14-year-old and he's fucking tooling all these adults, A-class fighters. And then just kind of watching him fighting and developing. Obviously, for a distance more now, he's all over the place, but there's not a lot of kids can go into the gym at 14 and be put in with 20, 25-year-olds, and they're not as obviously physically mature, but they're smart enough, the way George was, to use his technique. And the big thing that always stuck out to me was just how he uses what he's got for fighting, which is he's tall, his reach, his whole game is based on his physical attributes, and his personality. He's pretty laid back. I think most people would say you're laid back, and you never get flustered even under extreme pressure. You've obviously been in with some of the best fighters in the world now, but it's cool for me just seeing that as I was maybe 30 or something, but seeing a 14-year-old kid develop just and grow and just push the boundaries and stuff. Because, like I said at the start, for every 100 14-year-old kids you get in the gym, there'll be one guy like George who goes in, and you can just tell straight away. And it's a big kind of thing for me as a coach, that seeing the wasted potential, seeing the 99 people who didn't make it and didn't keep going, and you know what I mean, you bump into them in the street sometimes like that, or you drive past them and you're like, fuck, imagine what they could have become. But when you get that one like George, and it's something special, man. It's pretty cool. But my earliest memory is just this tall kid fucking that you couldn't get near. He was just teeping you all over the place. If you get inside, if you're lucky enough to get past his teep, you're getting kneed. He wouldn't have to do much to knee in the head. He just lift it, so you couldn't put your head. I'm quite bad for ducking, like a boxer. I'd set my feet and duck in a wee bit, and I knew that I couldn't do that. I was to get inside, I'd get my head kneed off. So it's just mad. It's mad. Like when you see kids, I obviously have some kids at my place as well who have come up through, and it's one of the best things about martial arts, man. When you can see how it just gets a hold of somebody and it changes their life. And you can't really imagine what they'd be like without it, I think. But I
tell you what, you've got a better memory than me, that's for sure. But like I said, obviously I'm only young and I'm not half as experienced as you gents, but with what you've said there about seeing people come and go, obviously for me it was the same, but in terms of it being my training partners, you know, so when I was coming up, when I was fighting, obviously there's people I was fighting alongside, training alongside, and man, as soon as they hit 16, 17, 18, gone. And you know what? Even growing up, right, they would tool me in the gym with ease, you know? So what could they have become, you know? It's a painful thing as a fighter, but to have it as a coach, obviously like James is experienced and Tommy's experienced and vice versa, yeah, it's almost like losing someone valuable to you, you know, someone very close to your heart. It sucks, but as James said, 99% of the time it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's 18 years, but it's the same with all sports. It's at 16, 17, it's when other things start appearing. Girls in Scotland, probably alcohol's a big one as well, and I'm assuming across the world. That's when most young kids drop out of sports, isn't it?
Yeah, and as I say, I'm very lucky, you know. Fighting, obviously, there's only two guys in the ring, but there's many people behind you, you know. You've obviously got your teammates, your coaches, you've got your family, you get your friends, you know. All those people help, you know. They help in terms of mentally, physically, and you know, I wouldn't be where I am now without them, you know.
Yeah, the other thing as well, I want to speak before we obviously move on to your fight. You've obviously fought and won. I wanted to find out about what your experience was like, or has been like, in that promotion, and how you've enjoyed your time there as well.
So one was brilliant. Yeah, the only thing I wish is that I got more frequent fights. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a little bit different from what I see in MMA. Like you'll see people fight maybe twice a year, maybe once a year, twice a year in terms of the top level. But then when it comes to Muay Thai, let's just use, if you use a Thai, for example, that Thai is looking to fight 10 times a year, you know. 8 times a year. So for me, because I've grew up with that same 8 times, 10 times, 12 times a year, to go to one and then get, 2 fights in 2 years sucks a little bit. But it's not a bad thing because I'm only 22 years old, you know. Since my last fight on one, I think it's been probably about 2 years, maybe 18 months since my last fight. So obviously I've grown a lot since. Physically, you know, I'm much, much bigger now. But the way that one treated you when you got there was brilliant. Brilliant. You literally had people assigned to you to just basically follow you around. Whenever you need something, you just ask the person nicely and bang, you've got it, you know. Really, really, really good to work for. The whole setup, the organisation, I couldn't say a bad thing about it.
Yeah, perfect. And then I guess that leads us to your upcoming fight on the 29th of May, and that is for a WBC belt. We've spoke to a lot of athletes out here in Scotland, the UK, and with fights coming up and how different their preparation's been. In terms of how it is out in Australia and your preparation, how has things been going there? Is it more like normal for you at the moment?
In terms of like how things are going with COVID and stuff?
Yeah, just how you'd be preparing for a fight versus maybe how you would have 2 years ago.
Much the same. The only difference is that I've started to incorporate a lot of strength and conditioning into the training. Trying to get physically bigger and stronger is something that I've probably only implemented in the last 2 years. That's been my biggest change. I'm still learning though. I'm far from perfect in the strength and conditioning, I assure you that. But just seeing little improvements is getting me where I need to be.
You've been pretty busy as well. Like you've been. I think if you were in the UK, you'd maybe have struggled to get fights the same way a lot of the guys here have. But I've been obviously watching social media, and I think you've had a couple fights even during the kind of COVID times. I think Australia seems to be back a wee bit quicker than us. Yeah,
so we bounced back almost instantly. Since this has all started, and I don't want to upset you here, but I think I've only been locked down for a total of 5 days. We literally, I don't know how we done it. But we weren't affected really at all where I am in Perth. A couple of the other states were a little bit affected, but same again, bounced back, done what they had to do. So in terms of training and Muay Thai and just the sport in general, we were almost able to continue as normal. Everyone seemed to, it's like training at home. Everyone got a bag up in their garage for 5 days, which probably most people are regretting now. But yeah, we were very lucky. The promotions, as soon as we could, promotions were coming back. Even when, literally, we got cut back to 200 people that could go to a fight show, and we had a professional fight show on where obviously they would have a couple of thousand people, and yeah, they got told they can cut to 200. So when you consider the fighters and you consider the staff and those around, that's 200 people gone. But the promoters were still going. They don't care. Promoters were still matching fights. They want their fighters to fight. So yeah, hats off to them.
See this, the WBC belt as well. It's a prestigious belt, that one. It's the best looking belt in combat sports, I think, the green belt, to be honest. Is this your goal then? Get the WBC belt, then get back to one? Yeah,
definitely. So when I look at my career, let's just say 12 months ago, I was in a little bit of a tricky situation where I didn't know what to do weight-wise. So I've always kind of fought in the last few years between 65 and 70. And I'm 6'5", maybe even 6'6". So I'm not sure how big I am now. So to try and get back down to 70, which I've done on one, and I passed the hydration tests, made the weight, passed everything. It's pretty hard. So during that time, I've pretty much sat back and went, okay, what are we going to do? I went up a little bit in weight to 72.5, had a couple of fights, and then during COVID, they pretty much said to me, "Listen, George, we've got a fight at 76 against this chap. His name was Stefan, and man, this guy's a beast." Like, I was sitting there thinking, like, do I really want to not only step up to 76, but he was ranked number 4 in the world at the time, but fight one of the best? And I went, okay, yeah, let's just do it. No worries. So I had 2 fights. I had one at 72.5, and then 3 weeks later, I fought this guy at 76. During the fight at 76, it went really well. Like, I remember sitting in the corner, and my trainer was sitting down, and he's saying to me, "You're so strong at this weight. You are so strong at this weight." So when we came back from that, we thought, all right, let's see what we can do. Long story short, had a few more fights, got a couple more wins, and then I was able to fight for the international WBC, which is basically one step below the world. Had a good fight against a chap called David Pennington, who was highly ranked in the world, and was able to win that. And that pretty much, whoever won that fight, we discussed it, me and David. We said, whoever wins between you and I, we're going to be fighting for the world title. And yeah, obviously I was lucky to come out victorious. The difficulty is, so I fought at 77. Oh, sorry, 76. That's the new weight that I've stepped up to. The world champion is called Hamza, and he beat Toby Smith for the belt in Ireland. We can't get him here. Obviously, he's based in France. We've tried, we can't get him here. So the opportunity came up to fight this lad. His name's Charlie Bubb. He's an absolute animal. I'm not sure if you saw him or not. He is really, really good. But he fights between 79 and 81, and he's also signed to 1. So we decided, okay, well, a few negotiations back and forth, and I think he's number 1 in the world at light heavyweight, which is 79. So we went, all right, let's give it a crack. We'll fight him for the world title, and fingers crossed. So hopefully, if I can win the world title, WBC title at 79, step back down to 76, and obviously fight Hamza from France when possible. And then just keep doing my best. If one call me, I'm there. I'm ready to rock and roll anytime.
Are you feeling you'll be feeling some difference with your training, not cutting that amount of weight? Like, you were always, I remember you fighting below 70, and you're still about 6'3" then, and it's a tough slog, that one, and
yeah,
it's so much different when you're not on a constant strict diet. You can feel your training sessions better and stuff like that. And I think the good thing you've got is, when you're moving up these weight classes, you're not going to have to change your style up too much. You can still play the game that you play. It's not like you've relied on knockout power or being stronger than guys before. Even when you were stronger than them at the lower weights, your style is always a nice, clean, I'll dissect you type of thing. I'll use range well, control where the fight happens and stuff. And I think that carries over through weight classes better than guys who are like one-trick ponies, where they've got a big left hook, or they've got good kicks and stuff like that, man. So it'll be interesting to see it. You're filling out as well. Like you said, you're 22 years old. You're still growing. You're probably going to end up 7 foot dead.
Like I say, hopefully I can just keep heading in the direction that I'm in. As I say, this fight's going to be really good. When I stepped up to 76, as you said, my training was really good. But not only that, because I had such a short gap, as I say, I only had 3 weeks before fighting 72 and a half to then stepping up to 76. So I was able to compare my performance in a short time. And when I looked at the fight, 72 to 76, man, after round 1 of the 76, we literally sat back in the corner and went, wow, we didn't expect that, because I just came out guns blazing. Like, I was able to turn my style into more of an aggressive, smart, but an aggressive style. And that worked really well for that fight. So, as you know, in the sport, you're forever learning. I'm always adding to my game. Obviously, I've always had the technique, but I've not always had the power. And I think coming up in weight and doing the strength and conditioning and doing everything that I'm doing, I think it's only a matter of time before that starts to reflect in terms of knockouts and doing more physical damage, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, the thought must have always been in your head when you were younger that at some point, as you say, when you were filming it, you were going to have to move through weight classes anyway.
My plan, obviously, it was only from a young kid's perspective. I'm still young, but I wanted to try and stay around 72.5. I didn't really want to go any bigger because, as you know, the kind of style changes and it almost becomes one shot, one kill almost. But now that I'm actually here, and when I was sitting there, I'm thinking, at the time I was obviously only 21, I thought, I'm only 21. I said to myself I wouldn't go above 72.5. So my options are I either keep cutting weight, retire, or break my own promise to myself and step up to weight. And here we are. I obviously broke my promise and I'm still cracking on, but I'm not sure how big I'll get. We'll see. We'll see. The chap that I'm fighting, Charlie, him and I, we've met, we've spoke. He's very similar size to me. I'm a little bit taller than him, but he's obviously physically a lot bigger than me. So it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting.
And how do you see that? How do you see that fight going against Charlie? What's your expectations for the fight, or what do you envisage happening?
So Charlie, his movement is very good. His timing is very good. He's got very good hands. Like he knows how to tie them into that Muay Thai style. It's almost like he's come from a different background of sport, and he's jumped in the Muay Thai ring and made it work. Like he's very unorthodox, very different, but he makes it work. He comes in very powerful hands, body shots, and then obviously he can do the kicks and knees and elbows and all that on the end of it. So I expect him to come forward. Everyone seems to come forward against me, which is great. But hopefully we can stop him in his tracks and make it uncomfortable for him. Fingers crossed. We'll see how we go. We'll train our backside off, and hopefully it'll pay off.
So looking ahead then, George, 2021, this looks like it could be a very big year for you then.
Fingers crossed. I've got a couple of fights in the background. I'm pretty sure have been confirmed. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what's announced. Nothing on one yet. I'm hoping to get in contact soon. I'm hoping to see what we're up to in the background and give us a call. When I fought there, it was 70 kilo with the hydrations and stuff. Moving up to, I think it's 77 point something. That will be a huge difference when I get to return to one. But one step at a time. We'll take this fight and we'll deal with the rest as they come.
Perfect. And just so, James, I want to bring you in. Have you got anything else you want to just add before we let George go?
I've got a couple of things. I wanted to touch on. I remember I was talking to somebody in the gym recently about this. Actually, you've done something that not a lot of guys have done. You actually fought. Remember, you fought Martin McBride. So Martin's like your friend. You've trained with him, like quite a close friend. How did you get into the kind of mindset for that? Like you're fighting against a guy and try to hurt a guy that you're quite close with that guy.
So that's actually a really funny story, and that's one I actually forgot about. I'm glad you asked that. So not many people know, obviously. No one knows, obviously, Martin over here because it's a totally different world. But what pretty much happened was Martin and I were best friends, as you knew. We've done everything together, went to Thailand together, stayed at each other's house, as you do, when you got a best friend growing up. We've done everything together. We trained together for God knows how many years. And he got a girlfriend and stuff, and he decided to go to another gym, which wasn't far from us. And he was fighting a chap from Ireland. And then about 24 hours before the weigh-in, the chap from Ireland pulled out for whatever reason. And I remember Tommy being on the phone to the promoter at the time saying, "Hey, you got anyone for Martin? Like, can you weigh in tomorrow?" And they checked Brian's weight. I'm pretty sure they checked Brian Totti's weight, but he was a little bit heavy, or he couldn't do it for any reason. And I said to Tommy, I said, "I'll do it." And he goes, "Ha." And I went, "I'll do it." And he goes, "Nah." And I went, "Well, I'll do it. Come on." And it took a little bit. I remember it was kind of like he wasn't quite sure. Anyway, yeah, that was it. He says, "You sure?" "Yeah, cool." Anyway, he must have sent the message to the promoter and says, "Okay, Brian can't do it, but George will do it." And yeah, really, really funny story. Obviously, we knew each other we knew our styles inside out. We trained together forever. It had only been a couple of months before he left, so it wasn't even as though we had much time to change between training together and fighting together. So that was that. So we agreed the weight. I stepped on the scales. The fight got announced. Everyone started laughing on social media. I remember a few of the lads that we used to train with at the time thinking, like, comments and, oh, listen, Martin, I'm really sorry, but obviously you got a demo and that. At least George has stepped up. We'll do a bit of sparring with you. Like, and we had to get the promoters to, like, officially announce this isn't a demo, this isn't a sparring, this is a professional fight. These guys are going to knock each other's heads off. And everyone's like, nah. People messaged me like, you're going to go for this? And I went, I don't know, we'll see how we go. We'll go in and we'll just suss it out. And I can't remember the timing of it, but I remember someone videoed him in the changing room before the fight, and it got leaked onto social media, and he says, and he's getting his hands wrapped and he's lying back and he says, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to knock him out. And I remember just sitting there on my phone just thinking, he's going to knock me out. We're all right, we're going for it, we're fighting. And obviously the fight went ahead. I was winning the fight, and I remember in the 5th round he hit me with a punch, and man, it was a peach. My whole head rocked back, and it was an absolute. And yeah, believe it or not, I've never told anyone this. Right, this is only between us and obviously anyone listening. Between here, right, and all my lip and all my face went numb from the one punch, right, and it was numb for about 12 months. I was fighting over here in Australia. I couldn't even feel off my face because my best mate punched me and tried to knock me out. And I met my girlfriend pretty much instantly when I came over to Australia, and she went to give me a kiss at the time, and I went, oh, I can't feel my lip. And she went, she's behind me laughing here. She went, what do you mean you can't feel your lip? And I went, yeah, so I was in a fight and obviously got punched, and long story short, yeah, it was a real fight, really weird experience. We knew each other inside out. We almost had to try and change it a little bit to kind of throw each other off, but weird experience. Would I do it again? Definitely.
That was my next question. Would you do it again? So just a couple quick ones to wrap up. Who's the best fighter you've fought so far? Who's the best guy you've competed against?
Oh, good question. I fought a guy called Tom Sidgotong, and he was the Lion Fight World Champion at the time. And he was probably like 5'4", and obviously I was towering over him. But I just remember him throwing some really unique and tricky things that caught me off guard. So that was the probably the most challenging fight I've had mentally in terms of tactics and thinking. I also fought a guy called Yodpunpon from Sitmonchai at a heavier weight, and he was just a Thai who would just come forward and punch and low kick and punch and low kick. So I would say those two are up there for different reasons, one being physicality and one being more of a mental drain.
And who would you like to fight if you can pick your next opponent? Obviously, other than the fight you've got confirmed, anywhere in the world, any organisation?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I'd like to return to one, and I would like to challenge either the champion Reagan Ersel or Nicky Holskin. Nicky Holskin obviously fights John Wayne Parr, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But those two are definitely on my hit list. That's my return to one, and I'm ready anytime. Obviously, I've got a few fights in the background, so I already know that they're done and dusted. So I don't want to say their names. But I return to one. I return to one to fight the best. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. I'm ready.
One more for me. Just speaking of one, I'm pretty sure you'll be back there as soon as they open up as well. I think a lot of the UK guys are struggling to get there. We've got Chris Shaw at our gym now, who's still contracted to one, and they've actually given permission to fight outside the one. So I think he's speaking to Brian and stuff. But hopefully you get back there as soon as possible. But just on the subject of one, I watched your fight with Smoking Joe in the gym with Tommy actually, in between training, and obviously there's a picture of your head went pretty viral, that with the swelling and stuff like that.
Yep.
Was that as sore as it looked?
Nah. Oh. I'll tell you what happened, right? So he hit me with the punch, and pretty much my whole vision went blank. Like basically, if you imagine going in a dark room, turning the light off, and you can see nothing. That's pretty much what happened. But obviously, in the canvas, you can hear the footsteps of the person coming. And I remember just thinking, right, he's coming, listen for him, see where he's going, blank out everything else and try and just survive. In the fight, that didn't hurt. I had no idea what happened. I just knew he hit me with an absolute peach of a shot. That's one fight I really wanted again, but obviously I've moved up now. And then I went back to the hospital and stuff, got it checked. It was sore for probably 10 minutes, had a Panadol, pain went away. And what pretty much happened was, so my head was here and then it pretty much came down my face. And then what happened, by the end of it, like my whole neck was green. But the funny thing was the day after that, so we fought Saturday night, Friday night. I was in the hospital till about 3 a.m. I got on the plane at 7 a.m. We got back home, and then that next day I went to a fight show with my head like out to here. Man, could you imagine some parents walking in with their kids thinking, what the hell happened to that guy? But that was definitely experience. The one thing that I'm proud of, though, I never got an 8 count. I never got stopped. I was able to kind of adapt in the moment, even though I couldn't see for about 40 seconds, and just keep going. You know, it's one thing that I'm really proud of.
It's a proper test of character, getting injured like that, and heart, man, pushing through it. Like it wasn't easy for Tommy to watch it. Like when we were in the gym, he was quite uncomfortable watching it. But I know, like he was proud of you, like getting through it, and still you fought right to the bell, man. It's pretty cool.
And you know, that means a lot to me. You know, and I'm sure you saw yourself, whether it's a loss or a knockout or just anything in general, where a fighter gets thrown a curveball and then they pretty much disappear, as we discussed earlier. Another thing that I'm proud of is obviously I was able to kind of dust myself back off, get back to winning ways, and here I am. Obviously, I fought on one again after that. I was quite unlucky. I thought I won the fight pretty easily, but I ended up losing split decision on the end, so that was a little bit disappointing. But apart from that, like, you know, I've bounced back. As you know, I've got plenty of time on my side, so I could have another 50 losses and still bounce back, you know. So fingers crossed we can keep doing the right things, training hard and learning as we go.
Brilliant. And just one last one for me. You mentioned that there, Holtzkin and John Wayne Parr. Just quickly, your thoughts on that one, George?
I want John Wayne to win. I really want John Wayne to win. Like I say, I think Nicky will take it without being disrespectful to anyone. I think Nicky's he's got a punch, he's got power, and obviously I know how one is with the rules and the scoring and those gloves. I've compared those gloves to like the UFC gloves, and man, they're half the size. I'm not even sure about the ounce and all that sort of stuff, but you compare them physically, they're half the size. There's nothing in them. It's mostly getting hit with like a bat. So unfortunately, I would have to go with Nicky, but hopefully that means I can fight him at a later date.
Perfect. Well, that's everything we've got for you, George. Thanks very much for coming on the show and chatting to us. We appreciate the time, mate. Yeah,
I just want to say thanks again, you know, like for having me on, and not only that, James, thanks for everything that you've done, you know, growing up and not just being a helper throughout the gym, but being a role model as well. You know, I'm not here to kiss your ass, but you know, when as a kid, when you're walking into a gym and obviously you're seeing that the coaches and the respect that the other coaches have got for the fighters and vice versa, like it's what made me the respectful guy that I am today. You know, it's what's made me who I am today, and obviously the fighter that I am. So thanks for everything. You know, even though if I wasn't participating in your classes, I was watching. And the reason I'm telling you that now is because you could probably see some guy, some young kid at your gym, probably peeking in the window like that, you know, who'll one day rock up to your class and go, "Hey, I've been watching you for the last 3 years. You don't even know that." So thanks a lot for everything, you know.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Well, let you both go, lads. And thanks again, mate. We appreciate it.